Hi, my name is Bronwen and I went to Saltash Community School, and I'm making this little video today to talk about my experience after leaving secondary school. The reason for that is when you leave secondary school, it's probably one of the most uncertain times in your life, and it can be really scary. You know, a lot of us don't actually know what we're doing when we leave school, because when you're in school, you're in this nice little bubble. And in this little bubble, you have a set routine, you have a set friendship group, and it all just clicks. It all makes sense, and you know what you're doing each day. Suddenly you leave, everyone goes off and does their own things, and you lose that structure, almost completely sometimes. So I'm hoping that by talking through my own experience of plans that didn't quite go right, you'll realise that actually it's okay. It might offer you some reassurance that even when things don't go to plan, you'll probably end up in the right place. So first I'll give you a little background about who I am, then I'll talk through what my plans were just before I was leaving school, and then what actually happened when I left school. So I left sixth form in 2017. I was one of those kids in school who kind of loved school, and I enjoyed most of my subjects. So even when picking my A-levels, I was so confused about what subjects I wanted to do. I ended up doing geography, maths and drama, which isn't your most conventional choice. Anyway, so I do this weird mix of subjects, and I enjoy all of them a lot. So when it came to like deciding what degree I wanted to do, I was a bit confused. Turns out they don't do a combined honours in geography and maths. Who knew? Anyway, just a quick side note, I followed quite a conventional route when leaving school, so I did a gap year and then went to university. Just because I did that doesn't mean it's the only option. There's loads of other options out there. Some people go straight into work, some people actually leave sixth form and decide to go and do apprenticeships after, and honestly there's loads of options. I wish I knew all of them, but I was quite conventional in what I chose to do. Anyway, so in sixth form I was told I needed a plan and that was very intimidating because I was one of these people who had no idea what I wanted to do with my future. The only thing I did know is that I was passionate about marine biology, or more specifically passionate about marine conservation, because I was rubbish at biology at AS level. Didn't enjoy it. Anyway, so I was told I needed this plan. So I decided, right, I'm gonna do a gap year because I worked very hard in school and I felt like I needed a break at the end of it all. So I planned my gap year. I planned that during my gap year I was going to travel. So I chose to go to Thailand, as every gap year student decides to do, which I didn't realise that at the time. I just thought it was cool. But it turns out every gap year goes to Thailand, every gap year student. Anyway, decided I was going to go to Thailand. I was going to do this marine conservation course and then see where it took me for the rest of the year. And then my plan was in September 2018 to go to university and study geography. So that was kind of my plan, and the whole idea with it all was to eventually follow the physical geography route so that I could go into marine conservation, or just generally conservation. So in terms of what actually happened, the first part of my plan went really well. So during my gap year, I did go to Thailand. I did this marine conservation project and had a great time. I came back to the UK in December 2018. I did assemblies in schools, in fact just at Saltash in the end, but I did assemblies on marine conservation, had a great time, figured out that I love public speaking, and then I worked for the rest of my gap year. And actually that's a job that I still have now, so that was a really valuable experience for me because it means that I've had some additional income whilst doing my degree. And then in September I went to do my degree. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning is in this sort of year and a half period where I'd done my gap year, my friendship group changed a lot. So a lot of my friends went off to university and we kind of lost touch a bit, which is fine, it happens, you can't really help it. There were friends from home who we just realised that we didn't actually have a lot in common, and that does happen because in school you have this set routine and this set life, And suddenly when you leave school, you start to understand yourself a bit more as a person, and you start to learn who you actually click with and who you don't, rather than who you click with just because they're there. So that was a really valuable experience, and it is hard when your friendship group changes, but honestly, it's always for the best. Try not to get too upset about friendship groups changing. So anyway, fast forward again, go to university, and I start studying, and in first year I learn that I hate physical geography, which creates a bit of a problem in terms of conservation, because you kind of need a good understanding of physical geography to do conservation. So suddenly my conservation idea was out of the window, and I didn't know what to do. I went into second year a bit confused, doing mostly human geography modules, and I had no idea what I was going to do after my degree. Suddenly they were throwing like, oh, you have to do all this career stuff at me, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do when I finish. I don't want to stop studying. I was having a complete meltdown. And actually it was only a month or two ago that I realised that what I've actually been interested in this whole time is public health, and studying geographies of health. So about 6 weeks ago maybe, I signed on to do a master's in public health after my geography degree, and that's going to lead me most likely down the policy route, and I'm so happy about that decision. And you know what, when I left school, I never would have imagined that I'd end up doing public health or public policy. That just wasn't something that was feasible to me. I was so sure that I was going to go down the marine conservation route, and yet here we are, and life's completely different, but I feel great about it. So I guess the takeaway message is, don't worry if things don't go to plan. In fact, things probably won't go to plan. They usually don't. But you will end up in the right place, and you will end up having a great time. So I know we're living in uncertain times, and I know coronavirus has made it all the more terrifying. But please keep safe, and just see where the wind takes you. It's really cheesy advice, but it's true. Just see what happens, and I promise you, you will end up doing something you love, even if it takes a while. Stay safe. Okay, really quickly, because I just watched that video back and I realised that I forgot to say that you shouldn't be afraid of change. The main thing I've learned since leaving school is that all experiences, whether good or bad, are valuable for what they teach us about life. So with that said, go forth into 2020 and embrace life for all of the weird things it's going to throw your way. This year is a prime example of that, and I wish you all the best of luck.